It wasn't the phone, it was the
Okay.
show's website.
Uh-huh.
Okay, oh, what happened?
Have you heard? I mean, you were away. You would.
All of a sudden, I heard what?
About Moscow, anything to do with Moskowitz family.
Which Moskowitz family?
Rabbi Moskowitz.
Oh, from there? No, I haven't heard anything further.
I say you really wouldn't know.
I continue to include the daughter on my Mishaberach list, but I haven't heard anything further. I would have thought that you guys who go to Kollel would. I would thought that you guys who go to the Kollel would hear something sooner.
We didn't hear anything. I mean, they've been very private about it. Nobody's heard anything except that she was ill and seriously ill. But nobody even knows what it was. People are speculating, but nobody actually knows except obviously the family. I'm sure Rabbi Goldberg knows. I'm sure.
And Dr. Strauss, Oliver Schultz, they have a telephone number.
Okay.
It was interesting. There was a man davening in here this morning. No tallis, no tefillin.
No tallis?
No tallis, no tefillin. He was sitting in this seat.
Where, oh, in here?
In this room.
Yeah, I know who it is.
You know who it is?
Yeah. On Shabbos, other days, sometimes he comes into the
Schultz itself.
house.
So he's a regular. I just happened to run into him today.
It's on a tallis in the front.
And he wears a tallis. He sits usually when he comes.
Blue tallis.
No,
Not-
I know who that's the lawyer.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about him. He doesn't daven. He contemplates.
Whatever he
meditates.
does.
No, this was a different person who had a siddur and a chumash.
Yeah.
And he had apparently been learning chumash, and now he was doing the davening. I mean, when I walked in, he had it open to Shir Shel Yom, but no tallis, no tefillin.
No,
And I said to him, would
saw,
you like to borrow my tefillin? I'll take them off. And he ignored me.
No, all I saw was Mr. Figler coming out.
No, Figler is
the attorney.
That's his name. No, he with his. I mean, he's obviously one of every Monday I think of.
Okay.
Because of Kairach is Veged.
Genau. All right, quickly, I'm going to start learning sponsors, and then we'll get
Why don't
moving.
you move up? Or,
Leave it alone. That's just talking before.
you know, there
Okay.
was a class.
Arwin, tell them that.
I don't know. We went there. We didn't go, but then we ran into people at the restaurant who said, "Where were you?"
All right. The year of learning, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Toby Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bad Asher. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Azna Bad Yitzchak Aharo. Many friends of Stephen Vigdil, Ezech Nishmat, Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bruch. Okay. Month of learning, Stanley Presser in memory of his wife, Chaya Leah Bad Zev Cohen. In honor of Vicky and Larry Fish, by their children and grandchildren, Rebecca Watansky, Louis and Susan Watansky, in memory of Rebecca's uncle and Louis's brother, Pesach Ben Yosef Yehudis, Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her mother, Gita Bat Nachman Binyam, Shmuel and Kenya Hadassah Novik, in memory of his mother, Leah Bat Yaakov, Lenny Bahar, in memory of her husband, Yitzchak Ben Menachem, Evelyn and Isaac Blachor, in memory of her sister, Shendel Yehudis Basarav Yeshaya Yitzchak Alevi, Sharon and Michael Glass, in memory of her father, Shlomo Ben Yosef Cohen, Jack Gilman, in memory of his father, Yitzchak Ben Avram Chaim, and today, being the 15th, we do not have any days of learning. And Shem is having a Leah cranker a field about the Yeshiva Shem at Leah L'chol B'nai Israel, good bench job. Okay.
It's also 3 weeks till, so it's time to start thinking about acquiring something.
What?
Acquiring
Isn't
pursuit.
Psachim next?
No,
Ah,
Tuvos is next.
Suvas.
Subas
Tuvos
is
is
next.
next.
All right, it's
Yeah.
time to acquire Subas.
All right.
Okay, so we finished on the top of Kaf Amud Aleph, Ria B'fnei Atzma Ninhu. That was the indication why the Tum and the androgynous did not get distributed truma. Okay, Avid Nami, why not these Evid Nami Dilma Ati La Asuke Mitruma La Yuchsin? Why? Because they might raise the person up,
think he's a
okay,
Kohen.
and think he's a Kohen. Remember, we saw that was different manhagim in different places. Arel v'tamei, what about them? Mishum dema'ise, because it's detestable to give to them. No say isha she'ina hagenet, lo, that woman that is not appropriate for him. Okay, what are they going to do there? All right, mishum knasa. There it's a fine. Okay, a penalty. Ela isha ma'itama lo. So why not the question of a woman? That's where we left off yesterday. Okay, so we're on Kuf Amud Aleph. Marty, you okay? Yeah. Kuf Amud Aleph, we're going to start on 5 lines down. Okay, that's where we are. Plige ba Rav Papa v'Rav Huna. Right, that's where the Gemara we're going to start. Okay. Pligi ba Rav Papa v'Rav Huna. There was a disagreement between Rav Papa and Rav Huna. Parade the Rav Yoshua. Chad Amar Mishum Grusha. According to one, the reason they didn't give to woman was because she was divorced.
She
She
have
could be.
been
Right,
divorced
might
and
be,
nobody
might-
would know.
We don't know.
Well, we'll get to that. Hold on, guys. Hold on.
Please.
Okay, that because of the issue of divorce, namely the issue was, would they know, okay, if she was divorced, depending upon other circumstances. As a divorcee come to acquire the truma, okay, it could be that the divorce was not public, okay, and so therefore that could be the situation. V'chad amar mishum yichud, and another said was because of yichud. Okay, that if, as the Gemara is going to tell us, there were no people around, we're concerned that maybe she might be alone with the owner of the Golan. Okay, all right, okay. V'chad right, so that was it. My beinayu, what's the difference between the two of them? Ika beinayu, be dari de mekarev lamata v'lo shchiche baho inshe. Okay, the difference between them was the fact of whether the granary is close to a city or a village, okay, and whether people will be found there. Okay, that's the implication. Namely, if they're close by, people would hear about the divorce. If it was distant, they might not know about divorce, but people being around, that would be another issue.
So
Okay,
each would have.
so each has a different circumstance where there is a difference in the point of view. Okay, so what happens, says the Gemara, inami, or possible, demerchak ushchiche ba inshe. Okay, or perhaps again, the second explanation was that perhaps it was distant, but people will be found there. And so therefore the argument of alone with the owner of the Goren doesn't work. Okay, but the issue of whether it would be known, divorced, and it would still apply. The kulan mishagrin lehem the batehem chutz mi metame v'nose isha she'ina hogenet lo. Okay, and all of them would, in other words, the two rabbis would basically agree that you send it to their home, okay, with the exception of the one who is tameh and the one who married inappropriately. Okay, now the Gemara picks up. Aval, but Arel, what about that person? Mishagrinam le, we could also send it to him. Okay, what's the issue there? Ma'itama mishum da'anis. We say there that the situation is because of circumstances beyond his control. Okay, tamenami ha'anis. We might argue that if you're saying that there are circumstances beyond his control, that the guy who's anis is saying, well, maybe my brothers died because of circumcision, okay, and therefore that's why I'm not circumcised, that's beyond my control. And so therefore the Gemara raises the question, well, why not use that same rationale in terms of the person who is Tameh, right? What about that situation? Okay, Tami Nami Had Anis. The Gemara answers, there's a difference in the level of Anis in this situation. Hai Nafish Unse. This one, because of the issue of perhaps circumcision, he certainly has a significant reason that's beyond his control. Okay, Vahai Lo Nafish Unse. And the other one who's Tameh, he doesn't have such a great reason of beyond control because he should be able to protect himself from becoming Tameh. Okay, that's the point. Okay, we now move on. Okay, everybody okay? Tanu Rabbanan says a Braita. Ha'eved v'ha'isha ein cholkin lehem truma b'beit hagronot. According to this Braita, regarding the servant or a woman, we do not distribute truma to them at the granary. Ubamakom shecholkin notnim leishat chila. And in a place where they do distribute to the woman, they give to her first. She's first in line. Why? The Gemara is going to tell us in a moment. Upotrino tamiyad. And then you send her away right away. My ka'amar, what is this trying to tell us? Hachi ka'amar. This is trying to teach us the following. B'makom shecholkin ma'aser ani notnim leishat chila. In a place where they do have the practice to distribute ma'aser ani, okay, to women, they do so initially, right away, first in line. My tama, what's the reasoning? Mishum ziluta, because of bizayon, because there's a embarrassment there. Amar Rava, and Rava is now going to tell us a lesson that he learned from this situation. Mereisha ki havu atu gavra va'itata ladina kamai. Initially, says Rava, when it was a situation of a man and a woman coming before me in a situation of judgment, hava sharina, okay, is that?
Yes.
Okay, hava sharina tigra digavra meresha. I would deal with the case, I'm going to use that language, of the man first. Why? Because I would think, Amina de Mechayev b'mitzvah, because he has multiple mitzvot yet to go and perform during the rest of the day. Kevan d'shem'ana laha. But once I heard this particular example or this particular example of the ani, all right, Sharina tigra de'itata beresha. I permitted or I went ahead and did the case of the woman first. Ma'itama mishum ziluta. What would be the reasoning? Because of, again, of embarrassment. Okay. We come back to our Mishnah. Higdilu hataravot v'chule. Okay, those who were mixed up, okay, became adults.
This is one where one's a slave and
One, right. One was right. The two of them, one was right, and they freed each other. Shichruruhu. They said they freed one another. So the Gemara speaks to this issue. Ibaye in, lo baye lo. If he wants, yes, he can free him. If he doesn't want to, no, he doesn't have to. Va'amai, okay? And the question is, why don't we force him? Lisa shivcha eno yachol. To marry a servant woman, he's not able. Bat charin eno yachol. To marry a free woman, he's also not able. Amar Rabba, says Rabba as follows. Ema, I would therefore say, Kofino tan umeshachrorin ze et ze. We force them to free one another, one opposite to the other. Okay, continuing now, back to our Mishnah. Notnina lehem chomrei v'chulei. That was that they had to have the stringencies of both the Kohen and the Israelite. Under what circumstances, the Gemara is going to want to clarify, are we talking about, right? Lamai hilchata. For what law are we dealing with here? Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, laminchatam. Okay, we're dealing with their mincha offering.
Private.
Okay. Okay. Now remember what we learned about the mincha. They take a scoop, right? You've got a certain amount, all right, in your hand. All right. The Kohen proceeds, okay, with that. And then what happens with the rest of that?
It's Israel.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Okay. But that's what the Gemara is going to proceed and be able to show us that there's a difference between when it's a mincha for a Yisrael versus a mincha for a Kohen. Okay? So now we go into the text. The mincha tam, says Rav Papa. Nik metzet keminchat Yisrael. If it's taken as a mincha for a Israelite. Ve'enan achelet. And it's not eaten. Why? Because otherwise the Kohen would get that portion, the leftover. It's not eaten then, the leftover, right? Like the mincha which is done for Kohanim.
So that's the chumrah.
Okay? Ha-ketzad. So the Gemara seems to imply we need to go into this in a little more detail to clarify. How is this possible? Okay. Hakometz karev ba'atzmo. Okay. The Kohen, right? He gathers it up close to himself, right? Vahashirayim krevin ba'atzmo. And the leftovers are offered by themselves. Okay. Ikre kan. So I would say here what? Kol shemimano leishim harehu bebal taktiru. But here we have an example, okay, of that which was gone, right?
It's a pasuk.
Right, the pasuk, that it wouldn't be
You can't
offered.
burn
It can't be offered.
So you have to burn it, but you
Right.
can't burn it.
So the question is, what do you do with it? Okay, still to make the difference between the Kohen and the Israelite, if we've got a pasuk that says it should not be burnt. It can't be burnt as a normal offering. That's the point. Amar Rav Yehuda bered the Rav Shimon bar Pazi. What does he suggest here? The following: Dimasik v'ho l'shum eitzim, that we bring it up and use it along with the wood or in place of the wood. Okay.
Instead of burning it as a korban, you burn it as firewood.
Okay, that's the case. Karabi Elazar, as suggested by Rabbi Elazar, the Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer.
Directed to Eliezer.
All right. So why do we say? What do we say? As it's taught in the following Braita, okay, who says as follows: L'reach nichoach I atama aleh. For a pleasant smell offering, you don't offer it up. Aval atama aleh l'shum eitzim, but you can offer it up as a wood offering. So the Gemara says, Ha nechel Rabbi Elazar or Eliezer. Okay, that's all right according to his explanation. El Rabbanan. But according to the rabbis, my ikalamema. What are you going to say according to their view? Da'avid la Rabbi Elazar, but Rabbi Shimon. We might say that they would answer us, do according to the practice of Rabbi Elazar, but Rabbi Shimon. Tanya, who teaches in a Braita as follows. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Omer. He says as follows. Hakometz karev la'atzmo. Okay, one who gets the, right, takes the mincha, right? Vahashirayim mitpazrin al beit hadeshen. And what do you do with the leftover? You spread it over the beit hadeshen, that pile of ash, right? Va'afilu Rabbanan lo pligei the Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. And even the rabbis don't argue with this view of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, ela b'minchat chotesh shel kohanim, except in regards to a chatas offering, mincha offering that belongs to a kohen. Debas hakravahi, because they claim that does have to be properly
completely
offered. All right?
But you can't if he's not a
right.
Kohen.
Aval hacha, But here in our case, afilu Rabbanan modu, even the rabbis would acknowledge the view then of Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. Okay, we go on now. All right, Matnitin, our new Mishnah. Okay, now our new Mishnah is going to go into a slightly new subject. Okay, we are going to learn as we jump into this, okay, Mishnah about number one, the requirement that a woman has to wait 3 months in order to determine the fatherhood. I use that word for the moment. Okay, well, you're being fancy there. Okay, of whether it was a prior husband or a new husband. Okay, so as we go into this, discussion, I'm going to phrase our thinking in a little different way. The question if paternal or only maternal brothers, since don't know if they were from the husband number one or husband number two. All right, let's go into the Mishnah. Mi shelo shahata achar ba'ala shlosha chadashim v'nis'et, says the Mishnah. A woman that did not wait the 3 months. We learned, I thought that was 3 months in a day. But
yeah, but it's okay.
but the point is, right? V'nis'et, and she marries. Okay? Now, okay, what happens? V'yalda, and she gives birth eventually. Okay? Ve'enya, right? We normally assume that's 9 months later.
9 months after.
Or, so we don't know, I'm going to get to that. We don't know if it's 9 months, right? Or 7 months from another.
Or 8 months and 2 weeks. I mean, the
Whatever.
point is, husband one either dies or divorces her, and she immediately
We'll see.
remarries.
Okay? Ve'en yadua im ben tisha l'rishon, and therefore we don't know if this progeny is 9 months from the first husband, im ben shiva la'acharon, or is 7 or 7 slight plus from the second husband. Havula banim min harishon. She has other sons from the first husband. Ubanim min hasheni. And she has other sons. Later on, she'll have other sons, we hope, from the second, right? The Mishnah tells us, Choltzim v'lo miyabmin. Those brothers, okay?
From both husbands.
Right, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, those brothers in a situation of the necessity for Yibum do Chalitza and they don't do Yibum. V'chein hu lahem, and likewise he for them. Choletz v'lo miyaben. Okay, we say that he does Chalitza and not Yibum, as we now go over to Amud Beis. All right. All right, let's see if I can keep up with my notes here. All right, we'll see. Hayulo achim min harishon, if the brothers were from the first husband, va'achim min hasheni, shalom me'eta ha'en, and brothers from the second husband, but not from the same mother, hu choletz umiyaben, he then is able to do chalitza or ibu. V'heim, and they, okay, echad choletz ve'echad miyabein. Okay, one does chalitza, one does ibum. Namely, a half brother from one father versus a half brother from the same or other father. Okay, that's what our point is. Okay.
Well, it's a suffix which father is.
Right. It's father. Number one, it's a suffix from which
both
father.
Fathers are all suffix.
Okay, so let's go on. Haya echad mi Yisrael, if one was from Israel, ve'echad Kohen, and one was from a Kohen. In other words, we don't know, right? But there's, right, whether husband number one was a Kohen or Israelite, husband number two was a Kohen or Israelite, right? No say
We know one of them was a Cohen and one was an Israel. We don't know whether the child was
the
from the
child
first
was
one.
from the first
The
of the
first
second.
one is a Cohen, the other one is Israel. No doubt about
We
that.
don't know what his status is.
The child's
Right?
status is.
Yeah. No say Isha Ru'uya Kohen. That child, and now we're going to continue to talk about that guy, that one child.
He has problems.
What does he have to do? First case, right? He must marry a woman that would be suitable for a Kohen. Why? Because he is a Safek
be a
Kohen. Okay? Ve'ein mitameh lemetim. But he doesn't become tameh in terms of contact with mace.
Because he might be a Kohen.
Because he might be a Yisrael, right?
No,
might
he
be
can't be metame to a mace because he might be a
They're
Kohen.
Cohen.
Might be a
We're
Kohen.
giving him now
The attributes of a Kohen,
We're
the
giving
mach,
him
the
Kohanic
stringence.
restrictions. He
Right,
has to
right,
marry
okay.
appropriately.
Right,
He can't be
okay.
a-
Ve'im nitma, and if he becomes tameh, ein no sofeget arba'im. Were he to become tameh, he would not suffer 40 malchus.
Because he might
Furthermore,
not be a Kohen.
right? Ein no ochel betruma. He does not get to eat truma. Ve'im achal, and if he ate it, ein no mishalem keren v'chomesh. He does not have to pay the knas of keren v'chomesh.
Because he might be a Kohen.
Okay, what happens? All right, so maybe if he ate it, maybe he did deserve it. Third, next item, ve'eno cholek al hagoren, and we do not distribute to him from the granary. Umocher hatruma, and if he were somehow to get truma, Ruvain and I discussed this
But
yesterday.
he is a
Okay.
farmer, so he
Well, don't jump at that conclusion. I'm not going to accept it, clearly. All right? Reuven and I had a whole discussion. That's one option.
okay, yeah. but
Okay? One option is that, okay? Another option is that he receives the truma from somebody else.
Inadvertently.
Inadvertently, right? Okay? But in any case, somehow truma came into his hands. All right? However it was, vahadamim shalom. Okay, he sells it, but he gets to keep the money. Okay,
He may have the right to own it.
right. Ve'eno cholek b'kadshe kadoshim, and he doesn't, right, get portions in kadshe kadoshim. Ve'enot nimlo eta kadoshim, and we don't give him the priestly portions, right? Ve'en motziin et shelo miyado, but we,
He has them,
if he was given them,
can't take
that's
it.
why the parallel with the Truma example, okay? All right, if he was given them, we don't take it away from him. Upatur min hazroa v'halachayim v'hakeva. And he's exempt from those three items. Okay,
He neither receives nor gives.
right. Ubechoro, and if somehow a firstborn came into his possession, yehe ro'eh ad sheyista'ev. Okay, so that statement might support the farmer shepherd issue.
That's why we
I understand that. I'm not disagreeing that it isn't an option. I'm just saying we have to play both sides here. Okay, but if he does have in some way a firstborn animal, he must put it out to pasture until it has a mum. Right? V'notnim alav chomrei kohanim v'chomrei Yisraelim, and we apply to him the stringencies of both a Kohen and an Israelite.
that's with regard to the mitzvah.
Right.
It's a big question.
Okay. All right. Now, says the Gemara, continuing with this discussion. Hayu shnehem Kohanim. Okay.
Both
If it's possible that both fathers were Kohanim, right? You know, she married a Kohen first. She didn't want to.
break this through.
Breaks.
She likes truma.
All right, whatever. Okay. Another
She
case.
likes- she's a
Who
big fan.
onain alehem? He has to be an onain for both of them. Vahem.
The only onin.
Don't jump ahead yet. Okay. Okay. Vahem onanin alav. And they must mourn
Both
for him.
would be an
Both
onin
of
for him if he
right?
died first.
So the question is, how is this going to be? Why it didn't say Kate Sad here? I'm
Because
just
we
surprised.
earlier said
Wait,
it
wait,
can't be matame.
We'll
so
see.
What's the
Okay.
deal with that?
Who ain't no mitame lahem? he does not become tameh vis-a-vis either one of them or both of them. Vehem einan mitam'in lo, and they do not become tameh because of him. Hu eino yoresh otan, he does not inherit them. Aval hem yorshin oto, but they may inherit him. Okay. Upatur al makato va'al kililato shel zeh v'shel zeh, and he would be exempt in any situation if he were to strike them or to curse them, either one of them. Okay. Oleh b'mishmaro shel zeh v'shel zeh. Not only that, but if the assumption is that both fathers were theoretically Kohanim, he would need to serve in the Kohen Mishmar of each one of them.
Why is he not liable for striking or cursing?
Because it might not be his father.
Because you don't know which one was really his father.
But if both of them are Kohanim,
Yeah,
but one of them is his father.
yeah, but you
Right.
so the point
Oh,
he's
if he
not.
curses the one, you don't know if he's the father.
You don't know if he's
You can't
Kohen
put him,
A or Kohen B.
You
All
can't
right.
put him to death for
Right.
beating his father if
Right.
it's not his father.
Right. That's
Mhm.
right.
In today's court.
Right? Ve'eno choleg. All right, and we don't distinguish. Im hayu shnehem b'mishmar echad. And if both of them happen to have served in the same priestly mishmar, notel chelek echad, says the Mishnah.
In the previous line, we do not give him
Right.
like a piece of
He
the
doesn't
bread
get a part of the mishmar portion.
because he's not. He
You
might
don't
be
know
from the
which
other
one.
mishmar, and he's
Right, you
stealing.
don't know which one.
But if they're both,
But if they're both from the same,
mishmar,
then he gets a portion. Okay, Gemara. All right, so we pick up now with the Gemara. Davka michaletz v'hadar yebume. Specifically, says the Gemara, that does chalitza first and afterwards yibum.
If they're both in the same mishmar, they give them both a portion.
No,
he
no, the
gets one
son,
share.
the son gets one share. If the son says, you know, both I'm a descendant of Kohanim, either from my wife's
My
first
mother's
husband,
first
my mother's first husband, or my
Right,
mother's
okay, but they were
second
dealing with
husband.
the case of they were two Kohanim.
Right.
Right. So
if they
he
both-
doesn't, so he may not, so if they'll say to him, well, what was your father's name? My father's name was Ben Gedalia HaKohen. Okay. Oh, says one of the other Kohanim. Ben Gedalia, he served in Mishmar on Rosh Hashanah, and your other, the second husband, Ben Ruvain, he served at Pesach time.
So therefore, can't get a chelek.
So he can't get a portion.
But if they're both the same mishmar,
But if the other one, it's another Kohen who might have known his father, oh, says your father, your mother's first husband was Ben Gedalia, and her second husband was Ben Ruvain. I want you to know both of them served at Sukkot time.
so he does
Okay.
get a chelek.
So then he would he's entitled to a portion of that Mishmar's section. That's the point. Okay. All right. Good clarification. All right. So what happens? So we said Dafka Mechaletz V'Hadar
All
Yevume,
the way back to the beginning.
right? Aval Yebume Bereisha lo. But to do Yibum first, no, that's not permitted and not appropriate. The Kapaga B'Yabama L'Shuk. Because there it might be a situation that he would have relations with her when she should have been available to the market.
No, but he is the shuk, maybe.
Well, maybe. Amar Shmuel, says Shmuel, Asara Kohanim Omdim Uperesh Echad Mehem. There were 10 Kohanim there, all right, whether they were in the Mishmar or in something else, and one of them separated, right? He snuck off, okay, Ubaal Havlad Shtuki, okay, and he had relations with a woman. I hate to say this, but this reminded me of all the issues going on in the Catholic Church. Okay.
Sneaking off.
No, the fact is that in medieval times, okay,
Right, you don't know
theoretically, the nunnery was in one location,
who's who, and
the
monastery
was in another,
Right.
and the orphanage was in between. Didn't know that?
Yeah, but I mean, you're putting a slant on.
Right.
Even
Okay.
worse, the ones that are doing construction, so they dug up a area just past the church and they found a graveyard.
Yeah, but in Canada with the schools, with
Right.
whatever.
Okay. Anyway,
But in any way,
but coming back to our Gemara, okay? So what happens? Uperesh echad mehen, one of the Kohanim slipped away,
and
Ubaal,
follow
and he had relations, Havlad Shtuki. Now I'm going to translate Shtuki simply as silenced.
we had him, this was on that same list of 10.
Right. My Shtuki, what do we mean when we say he's silenced here? Ilema shemishtakin oto nechse aviv. If we say that he's silenced from receiving the inheritance, the property of his father, pshita, that's obvious. Miyadina and avu hamanu. Do we really know who his father is?
You don't.
Okay, right. Ella shemishtakin oto midin kuhuna. But rather we silence him from the, all right,
Preclude his being a Kohen.
right, from the status, I'm going to say,
We
of
preclude
a kahuna.
because
my-
he might not be. a
Right?
Kohen.
My Tama, what's the reason? Amar Kra, says the Pasuk, Vaita lo ulazaro acharav, that it's him and his seed, his
No
progeny
offspring.
after him. Ba'inin zaro miyuchas acharav veleka. This Pasuk seems to tell us that we need to have progeny that are related to him, after him, and in this case, we don't have it. Matkifla Rav Papa. Rav Papa challenges it with the following, okay? Ella, rather, Me'ata Gabe Avraham. But what about the fact that in regards to Abraham, we also see dichtiv that it's written, Liot lecha lelohim, lizarecha acharecha, that it should be for a deity, a god for you and to your progeny afterwards. Hatam, in that case, Ma'ika mizhar le rachmana. What is the Kadosh Baruch Hu suggesting, warning him?
If you take the word
Right.
acharav,
Acharav, right?
be a miyut,
What's the
who is
issue?
miyut bayam?
Hachi ka'amar le. This is what he meant to tell him. Lo tnasev overet kochavim v'shivcha. The lo lizil zarecha batra. Do not let your progeny marry a Gentile or a servant girl.
Do not.
Why? Lest she lead your progeny after her. Meitive. But we're going to challenge this, says the Gemara, with a braita. Rishon ra'ui liot kohen gadol. A braita that says, okay, that he's first able to be even a kohen gadol.
This is if the woman jumps the gun
Right.
and marries the other brother.
The
so we
second,
don't know which
somebody
is the
else. Vahaba'ina. Okay, and this is, in this case, without waiting the 3 months, right? That's what we're saying here. Okay. Zaro miuchas acharav veleka, that the progeny being related after him, and that's not the case here,
Based on the first passage.
right? Zaro miuchas acharav derabanan. With rabbis, it's insisted that the progeny be related after him. Ukra ismachta ba'alma, and they argued that the pasuk is not an aseh deoraita, but really is simply a ismachta, a source. V'chi gazur rabbanan, and would the rabbis make such a decree? Biznut, in a situation of promiscuity. Bin nisuin, we're talking about a situation
Did marry.
of marriage. Lo gazur rabbanan, the rabbis would not make such a decree there. Ubiznut mi gazur rabbanan, and in situations of promiscuity, do the rabbis make gzeras, decrees? Vahatnan, but isn't it taught elsewhere in a Mishnah?
Harmish.
Right? Mi shelo shahata achar ba'ala shlosha chodashim v'nis'ed v'yalda. one who did not wait for 3 months and marries and gives birth. Mai achar ba'ala. What does it mean then after her husband? Ilema achar mitat ba'ala. If I'm going to say that it's after the death of the husband, ema sefer. I would say, look at the end of our Mishnah. Hu onein alehem vehein onanim alav. Our Mishnah said he is an onain for them, for both of them, and they mourn or onain onim for him.
So he can't be an onain if he's dead.
Right. Bishlema hu onain alehem. That's acceptable that we say that he mourns or is an onain for them. Mishkachet la b'nisuin d'sheni. We find that clearly in the example where there's a marriage to the second husband at the time of his death. V'likut atzamot dekama. And where there's a time for the reassemblage of the bones from there, right? Which was done at the time of death for the second husband, right? Of the first husband, okay? In other words, they mourned basically twice, all right? Once at the actual death and once at the likut atzamot.
Yeah, in our modern world, it would be a man died, he's buried in Boca for 12 years, and then the family decides to move him to Israel. So they're owning him for one day.
Right. You ever been involved in that situation? Yeah. I understand.
Well, I mean, I had to tell somebody.
Right.
Just do it. You're an own name.
Right. Okay. Elohim onanim alav. Excuse me. But rather they mourn. Okay.
But where it says they mourn him, it's tough for a dead guy to be an own name.
Right. Okay. How is that possible? Heichi mishkachet la. How is that possible when the Mishnah said they mourn for him? Right. Kama hu mitle. The first guy, he's dead already. All right.
Exactly it. See how you
Right.
Mordechai?
Right.
You said it seems
Ve'ela begerusha. But rather, okay, rather it was a situation of divorce. Right?
They're all alive.
Umai achar ba'ala. All right. Achar, get ba'ala. And what does it mean then after the husband? After the divorce of with that husband.
Are you subject to mourn even after you're divorced?
What?
If you divorce someone, you still have to mourn.
No,
The
if
child
he,
does,
if
it's
he,
still his
if the
father.
child
Oh, the
died,
child does,
the
yeah.
father has still have. But remember, we weren't sure whether he was the child of husband one or husband two.
So he has to sit.
So
with
in
both
either
of us.
case, both of them still have to
I
sit
didn't
for that
realize
child.
you're talking about the child and the father.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, right. So right, Ema Seifa, but I would say there who, when it says him, Ein mitamei lahem, v'hem einam mitamim lo. But there the Mishnah said they don't become tamei for him. He doesn't become tamei for them, and they don't become tamei for him. Bishlema hein ein mitamim lo. That's understandable that they don't become tamei for him. The chumrah in regards to the stringency,
They're Kohanim.
right? The kol chad v'chad dilma lav barehu. Because in each case, for each one of them, only perhaps is it that he's their son. Ella, hu ein mitamei lahem, am I? But the fact that our Mishnah said that he doesn't become tamei for them, why is that the case? Bishlema l'sheni. That's acceptable if it's not, if the second one is not his son. Lo lit mele. He doesn't need to become tamei for him. Ela l'rishon. Okay, but rather for the first one, lit mele. Let him become tamei for him. Mimanavshach. Either way, ibarehu. If he's his son, shapir kamatame. Shapir kamatame. Then it's well that he becomes tamei for him. V'ibar batrahu. And if he's the son of the latter one, the second husband, shapir kamatame le. It's appropriate that he become tamei for him. Why?
First, no.
Yeah,
If
Ibar
the first
Batrahu,
husband is really the child's father, it's appropriate to
that he becomes Tameh
to
for him.
If the second
One,
man is really
his father.
he can still be Matame
All right, it's
to the
appropriate
first
still.
one because he's a halal.
It'd still be appropriate to him to be Matame. Why? Because he's a halal.
To the
Okay,
first
you're
one.
only applying it to the first one.
Because that's
Right.
the one we're talking about.
We'll see. All right, the halalhu, because he's a halal. Okay, Ela lav not, but rather it wasn't this a situation of promiscuity.
If you're saying he's a halal.
Well, Umay achar ba'ala. What then is the situation of after the husband? Achar bo'Allah, after he's had relations with her. Ukatani seifa, and therefore our Mishnah teaches, Oleh b'mishmar shel zeh v'shel zeh v'tiyuv to the Shmuel, where it says that he goes into the mishmar of each one of them. That would be a proof text against Shmuel.
Who said
Right.
that there's suffix.
All right. Amar Rav Shemaya, says Rav Shemaya, b'mam enet. It was a situation of refusal. Mam enet, mika ayalda. If it's refusal, is it possible that she gives
Child
birth?
that young to have a
Okay.
baby.
Vahatani. But wasn't it taught by Rav Bibi, Bikame de Rav Nachman, in front of Rav Nachman? Shalosh nashim misham shod b'moch. That there are 3 women who are permitted to utilize a
Birth
absorbent material for birth control. Katana, a minor, mu'uberet, one who is pregnant already, umanika, one who is nursing. Katana, by the way, this is a very important, remember, piece of Gemara, okay, in terms of birth control. All right, we won't get into that whole subject now, but this is an
the loophole.
okay. This is a extremely significant piece of Gemara. All right, Kitana Shema Titaber v'tamut. A minor, lest she become pregnant and die.
So that means she can.
Okay, that she
That's
can
why they're
use.
bringing this.
Right.
That's a riot that a newly pubescent girl can get pregnant.
Right. Me'uberet, a pregnant, Shema ta'aseh ubara sandal. That lest she have another pregnancy, it would squash the earlier pregnancy, embryo. Manika, one who is nursing, right? Shema tigmol et benaviamut, lest by, right, in trying to nurse, that would be problematic and they die again. Ve'ezo hiktana, what do we mean then by a minor? Mibat echat esrei shana v'yom echad, from 11 years and 1 day, ad bat shtem esrei shana v'yom echad, until she's 12 and 1 day. Pachot mikan, less than that. Ol yeter al kain, or more than that, mishameshet kedarka v'holechet. She
Engages
in normative behavior, right?
Without
Divrei
a moch.
Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim omrim, but the sages say, echat zo ve'echat zo mishameshet kedarka v'holechet, right? That regardless of this or that one, they perform
not
their
use
normal sexual activity. Okay, they don't use the moch. V'holech, right? Umin hashamayim yerachamon, and heaven looks out for them. Shnei Amar has said, Shomer Pitaim Hashem. Hashem looks out for the
foolish.
simple-minded.
But
For the
that's
foolish.
not the din right now.
What?
That's not the din.
Yeah, it is.
That you're not allowed to use it at all.
Correct.
And they,
Look,
They say
there are
Hashem-
more modern rabbis who say that Basman is we can take liberties. The more stringent rabbis would say that it is not permitted to use.
and they
birth
rely
control,
on Hashem.
except
Yeah.
where there is a doctor has said that the woman's getting pregnant could kill her. That is the one loophole that the more stringent rabbis would
Right.
apply. The more modern rabbis would say that having too many children would be a mental
Problem.
issues. So they look for grounds to permit
They
her
really
to
look
go.
for a kula.
But it's a
Right.
big problem and people can't just do it on their
Right.
own.
Okay. Mishkachad la b'kiddushay ta'ut. Another suggestion. We find that perhaps this was a situation of a inappropriate engagement. Ukida Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. As said by Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Mishum Rabbi Yishmael. Saying in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Vehi lo nitpasa. And she has not been coerced,
Meaning she was seduced
right? Asura, then she's forbidden.
to
Ha.
remain with her husband.
Right? Ha nitpasa muteret. But if it was a situation of being
Okay.
coerced, seduced, okay, permitted.
Except if he's a Kohen.
Right. V'yesh lach acheret. And we have another example. She'afa pi shelo nitpasa muteret. That it's possible that even though she wasn't seduced or coerced, she's permitted to remain with the husband. Ve'ezazo, okay, and which is it? Zo shekidusheha kiddushay ta'ut. One whose engagement was a mistaken engagement.
So this is a halachic concept of annulling a marriage.
Okay, could be.
That's what we're talking about, because look at the next line.
All right.
Yeah, I'll get to it in a second. Okay, she'afilu bana murkav al katafa, that even if she had given birth and the child was old enough to ride on her shoulders, in other words, sometime later, all right, mam enet v'holechet la, she can refuse and go along her way. All right, and
And she doesn't need a get.
she doesn't need a get. And we'll stop right there, all right, because the new piece again comes from the Mishnah again.
All right.
All right,
Even if he has a child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, these are rare cases,
Yeah.
but we say that there was no marriage,
all right.
so she doesn't need a get.
Martin,
That
can I get a ride
happens a
home, please?
lot with
Can I get a ride home?
Balei
I know.
where we say